Hey everyone, so in this video I'm just going to go over a little bit more about Camouflage. The ability got a recent upgrade and I think we're all kind of waiting on a Camouflage leader to come out, and I think this video will just help give you an idea of how it'll change certain attack teams because they won't work the same way as before. So don't forget guys to like and subscribe to my channel for more content and information. So with Camouflage, any toons that are under this effect will not be hit by splash damage. And the way that splash damage is kind of defined, it's kind of area damage. So it's any type of damage that will hit other targets other than the primary target. And by primary target, I mean if we target one specific toon, so if we click on a toon on the opposition's team, so on the defensive team, that is our primary target. So any type of rushes that hit multiple enemies will not work the same way as before. You won't be able to hit those enemies if you have splash weapons. So that's like Rampage or your red or green splash weapons, Dylan's weapon, and I think that there's a couple other types of weapons like specialty weapons that can hit multiple targets. Those will only hit your specific target. The one upside, I guess, is that your rushes can still apply debilitating status effects to the enemy. So if I were to rush Mercer, for example, I might only damage my primary target, but the stun capability is still able to hit two other targets and stun them for 2 turns, potentially, including the target that you attacked. It also means that those other characters are not gaining any AP because they're taking no damage. So if someone's running Camouflage on a defensive team, for example, AP when taking damage, I think is less effective because you gain a lot of that extra AP by taking splash damage of some sort. So without that damage being applied, all of a sudden they're relying upon AP when attacking, or they're going with a very defensive build with HP and defense and a special 3rd slot and maybe a defensive 4th slot. So right now we're just going to take a look at a few raids that I just did about 15 minutes ago. Well, by the time the video's up, it might be an hour, but just to showcase how much I rely upon, like splash damage. So my Priya does splash damage with her Rampage, and she takes out almost the whole team. My Princess just takes out Pete, but if she had to attack a line of enemies, she would only apply damage to one of them. This also means that it'll be more difficult to auto against teams because you'll notice I hit the ×3 speed up button quite often in my matches, so in the bottom left hand corner there, because if my Priya is not doing damage to all other enemies, if she can only do damage to one enemy, I want to make sure she's doing it to a line because she can still confuse an enemy behind as well as impair, and because Priya attacks with basic attacks, I might want to check mods and weapons even to make sure I'm not attacking a toon that has a reflect damage weapon or mod, because that'll be a quick way for Priya to die. I believe that most of us rely upon some area damage rushes, so this will definitely slow people up when a camo lead finally drops. I just don't foresee Scopely changing the ability of camo just to not drop something on us that will completely change the game. Now, the people who run Infection on attack, because it's an active skill and it's not applying damage, Camouflage won't really affect it, and it shouldn't affect things like Bleed or Burn as well. Currently, we only have a handful of Camouflage toons in the game, and one of them is 6-star Gator. Now, a lot of people aren't a huge fan of Gator, but I think he's a pretty cool toon. He's great in survival mode because Camouflage also hides your teammates from walkers unless the walkers have keen scents. So this just gives you an extra turn to kind of regroup. So I don't expect to see people use Gator as of now. Just he's not strong enough being a Generation 1 6-star. His rush, I still think, is pretty decent if you can get it to go off on the first turn, for example. Plus 75% attack to 3 teammates and plus 75 crit is actually a huge boost. So to me, he's more of an attacking support toon, yet he's the only toon that has a generalist role, whatever that means in this game. But I could probably draft up a couple attack teams actually with Gator in it. Again, his buff is pretty good, so it would actually help my Priya with her Rampage, assuming the defensive team doesn't have camo. Now, one of my favorite 5-star toons in the game is Michonne, A Larger World. She was actually my first 5-star toon in this game, and she was probably the best 5-star toon other than maybe Kate and Victor that I ever got. Now, I really like her leadership skill. She worked great for a 5-star team, but her rush is really what made her amazing to me. She did area damage to the enemy, she gave a defensive bonus, and then also she provides camouflage. So when going up against walkers, she is like the ideal character to use because she gives you 2 turns of not being attacked by any walkers. So this gives you a ton of time to charge your adrenaline rushes, get some headshots in, and she was really good as a 5-star toon on 5-star attack teams. So she is definitely a toon that I will always like, and I think she might be my favorite 5-star toon to date. So now we're going to look at a little bit of film just to see kind of how camouflage works. So this is not a proper attack by any means. I just want to showcase what camouflage does. So when Gator rushes, everyone gets the skull symbol, which is a symbol for camouflage. And when people utilize camouflage, you see the skull come up brightly and in blue. It's actually a pretty cool animation, but it tells you damage would have been done to those characters if camouflage wasn't up. So for my defensive team that I'm kind of practicing with, I'm trying to charge Gator. He does have an absolute defense weapon so that he stays alive a little longer, but I want to make sure that he gets the AP and can be command rushed. So I honestly think camo will kind of be like a game-changing leadership ability. I'm expecting it to drop kind of right before WOC 3 because it'll force everyone to kind of change their battle style, except for the people who are running, of course, the Wangfa and Trader or Wangfa and Mateo combination, because camouflage does not stop abilities, status effects. It stops damage, splash damage in particular, so you'll just have to be careful. Like, it'll affect me a lot because you've seen that I use my Priya a lot and my Princess a lot, so I'll need a much more controlling attack team. And just really quickly at the end of this video, I'm just going to show you guys kind of how camouflage used to work, or how it still does work, I guess, on walkers, because I feel like a lot of new players may be unaware of how effective it can actually be. So this could be in the middle of a stage, but if I rush a walker with my Michonne, everyone has the camouflage ability, and you can see that the walkers don't move while camouflage is up. So this just buys you a ton of time sometimes in these matches, because you can sometimes be swarmed by a ton of walkers. So this ability is just kind of second to none when going up against different walkers on different stages. So if you're a new player and you pull this 5-star Michonne, keep her. She is one of the best 5-star toons in the game still, and she will help you with survival road a lot. Currently in the game, we only have 3 RNG leaders, with Mercer being one of them. Mercer, in my opinion, is the best RNG leader, and by RNG I mean he helps create the randomness because of his ability to possibly stun up to 5 enemies to start a turn. So if the enemies do not have stun resist mods, then there's a 100% chance of them being stunned. So the reason why I think Mercer is currently the best one is because if any enemy is stunned, it means that they're unable to gain any AP because they can't make a move, unless you end up attacking them, of course. Also, when he's used on a defensive team, if you attack a green or blue toon, there's a high chance of you triggering them for their first turn, and by triggering I mean they're probably going to rush because of the huge bonus to AP when taking damage. So I do expect a camo leader to come out, and it'll be interesting to see kind of what his composition or her composition will be. We move on to Jackie, who in my opinion is a close second for RNG leaders. Instead of applying stun to the enemy, she applies confuse to all enemies. So this doesn't work on walkers, but if there were 6 toons on the opposition's team, for example, they would all be confused. I'm a little confused why it does say all enemies get confused for 1 turn instead of up to 5 enemies, just because you don't see 6 enemies on a defensive team unless something is coming. So she is also a very good defensive leader, but she gives all fast and alert toons plus 50% HP, so she is better at kind of keeping a team alive for longer, because Mercer helps the team rush faster, she keeps toons alive for longer. She is also very strong, especially if you have the Trader behind her, for example, or Yellow, Bide, Rosita. There's just a lot of good options to put behind Jackie, but I don't like the fact that she still gives AP away to the enemy. So unless you run a fast rushing team behind her or a very tanky defense, she could be a liability, but that's my personal opinion. And last but not least, the last RNG leader is Angel, and she gives all teammates plus 40% defense, and all enemies get daze for 1 turn. So daze prevents enemies from using their active skill on the first turn, which is extremely effective for countering someone like Dr. Stevens on an attack team, for example. So with these 3 RNG leaders, I do expect more RNG leaders to come. I think that the camo leader will have AP, but I feel like it could be something like a huge bonus to AP when attacking and when taking damage, and then having camo, because that way that leadership toon would be able to run both on attack and on defense. It would make it very difficult for the enemy not to trigger someone when they attack, and by lacking either an attack, a defense, or HP lead skill, it means you don't have a super overpowered toon. Camo itself would probably be 1 or 2 turns to all teammates, so I don't think that that type of toon would need attack, defense, or HP, but AP both ways would make them very desirable. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching and listening to my video. I hope you guys found it informative.